Hello to YouTube, my name is PowerMark and welcome back to another book review where hopefully today I will be finishing my Pokemon Dungeons & Dragons complete handbook review by Dungeons & Pokemon on Instagram. So I am going to finish this entire book in this video. And if my recording stops, I'm just going to re-record. I am. So, yeah. So, I'm going... It's about 60 pages that I have to finish, I think. So, let's just get into it. So, when we left off... Oops. Don't want to crinkle these pages. We left off after doing the hybridized Pokemon. We are now on to Planier channeling. I'm not reading through all of this, so as always, guys, if you want to read, please pause the video and read for yourselves. Or, as I forgot to say in the last 5 videos of this book, you can go onto his Instagram and just read on there. So, yeah, just pause, and it will, and you can just read in your own time. I don't know if you can see that entire page. And also today is going to be a double upload, so yeah. Lovely, lovely artwork, showing off all the different colours for all the different types. More reading. Pause if you want to read. And then he's got each of these little symbols. Allow me to just swap hands. I'm going to be swapping hands a lot, so I'm sorry for the continuous change in camera angles. This book is very hard to operate, so pause if you want to read. So we got normal, ghost, flying, dragon, steel, water. Again, pause if you want to read. The colors and the designs of these symbols is very, very, very good. And the fact that it shows each type's symbol is also very, very good. We have grass, ice, grass, and bug. And it's all realm something, and it tells you basically what type you need. And then we have electric, rock, and fire. And again, pause if you want to read. And then you have ground, psychic, and fairy. Again, pause if you want to read. I'm not pausing to read, everyone. And then we have poison, fighting, and dark. And now we get into the designs. So here we have Wormindra, the Neophyllid Planier. There he is, all big and imposing. Basically, think of these like Gigantamax, except cooler and used on a lot more Pokemon than Gigantamax. And that is what his channeler is. There is his dex and his stats. It does tell you what Pokemon is needed for this guy. And it says that for all of them. And this is what he's based on. Moving on, we have Trevenant, the Trenant Planier. And there he is. Lovely, lovely colours on all of them. I will just say that. That is who you need. That is what he's based on. There is his dex and stats. I'm probably going to split this into 2 parts. Just because I don't want this to be like a super, super long video. Because it will take forever to upload. And then we have Asteroidos, the Astral Spider. And there he is. Lovely, lovely colours. Basically looks like the moon got eaten by Ariados. And there is his stats, his dex, and what he is based on. And then we have Galaossus, And you can... I'm not going to read out what that every single time. Again, lovely, lovely designs. There is his dex and stats. Again, if you want to read the dex and the stats, please pause. And that is what he is based on. Sorry, everyone. Changing hands again. Now we have God of Ast. Very, very beautiful. Gives off that angel Valkyrie vibe. And there are her stats and dex. And what she is based on. Or what he is based on, because God of War can be male. And then we have Dreadmonaught Daunt. And again, that's his title. The Astral Dreadnought. I'll read out these ones. The Colossus Planier. The Solar Planier. The Astral Dreadnought Planier. That is who you need. You can see what Pokemon you need, and it tells you right there what Pokemon you need to get these guys. But there is his stats, his stats and dex, and that is what he is based on. Again, very, very cool. Amazing designs, loving the shading, loving the coloring, loving that the light is all coming from below them, just like with Gigantamax and Dynamax Pokemon, and that the top of them is almost completely shrouded in darkness. Again, very, very, very cool. Sorry if it sounds like I'm rushing, but it's like I've been on this book for far too long. And as much as I love it, I want to be done with it. And then we have Monstrontrodon. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing a bunch of these. The Morunt Planier. And again, there he is. Big mech-looking guy. And there is his stats and dex. And again, pause if you want to read. And that is what he is based on. And here we have Marowdrake, the Draco Lynch Planier. Basically a zombie dragon. Again, amazing colours. Putting that Alolan Marowak design to good use. Amazing, love it. There is his stats and dex. Pause if you want to read. Or go onto his Instagram page. And that is what he is based on. And then we have Jumblex, the Jublex Planier. Amazing. Love how the red goes into like black and purple with the greens. That is amazing. And there's his dex and stats. And what he is based on. And here we have Jabbernaut, the Jabberwock Planier. Again, amazing color. And I love how all of them sort of have this aura, like, surrounding their outline to give them this, like, powerful glow. That is very, very good. And there is his dex and stats. And what he is based on. And then we have Grandash, the Kirin Planier. Based on the Kirin. This is one of my favorites, by the way. I absolutely love this one. And here's his dex entry and stats. Again, pause if you want to read, or go onto the Dungeons and Pokemon Instagram. And now we get into more of my favorites, the giant dinosaur ones. So we have Aerosaur, the Aerosaur Pokemon, the Aerosaur Planier. And again, loving the design. Got that electrical, like, sort of lighting in going through. That is, like, amazing attention to detail. And there is his dex and his stats. And what he is based on. And then we have Vastiodon, the Ceratops Planier. I keep wanting to say Pokemon. And there is his dex and stats. Again, loving the green lines through him to give off that immense power. And that is what he is based on. And yes, there are dinosaurs in D&D. And then we have Inorus, the Atlasaur Planier. One of my favorites. Like, look at how big it is. I love the coloring, love the orange. That is just amazing. And then we have his dex and his stats and what he is based on. And here is another one of my favorites, Titantrum, the Regisaur Pokemon Planier. Sorry. His dex, his stats, what he's based on, and I love that it's Tyrantrum. Oh, he is so cool. Oh, he's so cool. Sorry. And then we get into the giants. So we have Snorlungus, the hill giant. Just basically Snorlax, but bigger. There's his dex, his stats, and what he is based on. Now we have Pseudo Hugo, the stone giant. Again, amazing coloring, amazing detail. Love the lighting and love the shading to give off that Gigantamax and Dynamax feel. There is his dex and stats and what he is based on. It's very, very difficult to do with one hand, ladies and gentlemen. And then we have Fury Giant, the Frost Giant Planier. Love the Cubone and Marowak. Probably Marowdrake or Marowlich skulls. Love that. And there is his dex and stats. Again, pause if you want to read or go onto the Dungeons and Pokemon Instagram. And that is what he's based on. Then we have Magmar, the Fire Giant. Again, amazing. Loving the fire effects and details. Love that one of the arms is just a sword. There's his stats and his dex. And what he is based on. And then we have Maxitol, the Cloud Giant Planier. Again, amazing coloring, amazing detail. Love. And I love that all of their eyes glow as well. That is, like, amazing. But there is his dex and his stats and what he is based on. And then we have Elperium, the Storm Giant. Amazing. Love the red lightning. Gives off like the red lightning that some dragons use in Elden Ring. And there's his dex and his stats and what he is based on. And then we have the Eldars. Here we have, I'm not even going to bother pronouncing that. So, yeah, that's that. The Elder Tempest. Loving the electricity going through the sky. Amazing, big. And there is his dex entry, his stats, and what he's based on. And again, pause if you want to read, or just go on to the Dungeons and Pokemon Instagram, and you can read on there. Here we have Zartera, that Planier, the Zartanan Planier, and the Elder Tempest. Loving the coloring, loving the outline, as always. There is his dex, his stats, and what he is based on. And these pictures up here show you what you need, and what Pokemon you would need. And you can just look down here for Planar Channeler, and it tells you what Pokemon you need. Here is another one of my favorites, using another one of my favorite Pokemon, Talonflame, to make Titalon, the Phoenix. Absolutely love this one. Another one of my favorite designs. God, he is so cool. And there is his dex and his stats and what he's based on. Love the Phoenix. And then we have Leviados, another one of my favorites, the Leviathan. Obviously using Gyarados, if the body shape didn't give it away. Love that he is just completely made of water, like the Leviathan is made of in Dungeons and Dragons. There's his dex, his stats, and what he is based on. Should be, yep. So I'm going to get these guys out of the way. And then I'm going to end and do a re-record. And do a second part. So we have Aesir, the Air Prophet Pokemon. Amazing coloring, detail, and the weapon. There is his dex and stats, and what he is based on. Now, I am just going to point something out. One of these, like, mythical legendary Pokemon, they are a legendary Pokemon, has the dex entry of another one, and I will point that out when we get to it. So here we have Margoyle, the Earth Prophet Pokemon. There is his dex and stats. And what he is based on. I believe it's the water and air guy. Yeah, no, it's the water and earth prophet that have the same dex. So you have Flanifer, the fire prophet Pokemon. Amazing design. Loving the posing as well. That is just brilliant. And there is his dex and stats. What he is based on. Now, Gilgar, the water prophet Pokemon. Again, love that design. This is my favorite out of the 4. He has the exact same dex as Margoyle. Now, I did bring this up to Dungeons and Pokemon, and he said it was like a printing mistake. And I wasn't going to ask for a different copy just in case they all had it. So it's fine. If I want the actual dex, I will just go onto his Instagram. I will be going onto his Instagram to show you 2 extra designs that he did that were commissioned. So yeah, but yeah, he is meant to have, and I will show you what his dex is meant to say. But there is his stats, and that is what he is based on. So I'm going to leave this part here. I am splitting up episode 6 into 2 parts. So I will be right back, guys. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to become a part of whatever I'm calling my subscribers. And that's it. Power out. Boop. And I will be right back.